Hi everyone, welcome to Criminally and another Top 5 Friday. Last week I talked about my top 5 favourite crime and horror novels that were published in 2021. This week I want to talk about my top 5 favourite crime and horror novels that I've read in 2021 but that were published in earlier years. Hello, it's me, Criminally the editor rather than Criminally the presenter. When I filmed the video for this video, I was just getting over a really bad cold, and there are a number of mistakes in the video where I've just said the wrong name for a book or the wrong year for the publication, which I've tried to fix with little subtitles at the bottom. So apologies for that. However, having just finished editing the video, I realised the biggest mistake was that I actually only talked about 4 books rather than 5. So let me quickly talk to you about the 5th book, which I completely forgot when I was filming the video. That book is The Turnout by Meg Abbott. So this is a really intense noirish novel about a ballet school. So it's run by a brother and sister, run by 2 sisters and the husband of one of the sisters. And it's like a local ballet school for young girls and boys as well. And they get a contractor to come and do like renovations work on the school. And he mysteriously, he starts having a relationship with one of the sisters and then mysteriously dies. So this is as I say, it's really atmospheric, really intense kind of crime thriller that starts slow. So it starts incredibly slowly and it's got this really slow atmospheric build-up. And then the second half of it is just twist and revelation after twist and revelation. It's really incredible. So quite dark stuff. So definitely lots of trigger warnings on this one. But I've really enjoyed it. I think Megan Abbott's a really good crime writer and definitely worth checking out. Right, so having given you that slightly unprofessional intermission, if you like, in terms of the book that I missed, I'll return you to our regularly scheduled programming and hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Cheers. So, as with last week, these are in no particular order because I don't have the energy to figure out what the order would be. And the first one is a crime novel from the early 1960s, The Hustler by Walter Tevis. So you may not have heard of Tevis, but you've probably heard of some of his books. So he wrote the book that The Man Who Fell to Earth, the David Bowie film, was based on. He also wrote the book of The Queen's Gambit, which was recently turned into a Netflix series. And of course, The Hustler and its sequel, The Colour of Money, were both filmed with Paul Newman as the lead character, Fast Eddie. So The Hustler is about Fast Eddie, who's a pool hall hustler, so an expert at playing pool who makes money by ripping other people off, basically, and by gambling on the games that he plays. The book starts with him in a very tense match against another pool player called Minnesota Fats, which Eddie loses, and the rest of the book is about him then kind of clawing his way back to glory and regaining his confidence. It's an incredibly gripping book, and as in The Queen's Gambit, one of the things that Tevis does brilliantly is really pull you into the drama of the games that the characters are playing. So you know, I kind of know the basics of pool and I know the basics of chess. But if I were to watch a match on the TV, I probably wouldn't be that interested in it. But the games that are played in these books are incredibly dramatic. And even if you don't understand the kind of detailed mechanics of how they work, Tevis makes you feel like you do. So he's a real master of that kind of thing. And this is really a classically structured kind of riches to rags to riches novel. It's got a very classical structure and story arc to it, and it's incredibly satisfying as a result. So it feels like many other kind of American novels from the middle of the 20th century, but in my opinion, a particularly fine one. So there's a bit of crime in there, there's a bit of romance, lots of drama, and a kind of sports underdog story as well. So a really gripping book. And one that I thoroughly enjoyed when I read it earlier this year. Next up, another book from the early 60s. So this one I read recently for the Plagued by Visions October read-along. It is The Case for Satan by Ray Russell. So this is a really great horror novel, similar to The Hustler, in that it's quite short and it's got quite a kind of stripped down prose style. This one is about a young girl, a teenage girl, who believes that she is possessed by the devil, or whose father believes she is possessed by the devil, and about two priests who try and exorcise the devil from her. So you could take it as a horror novel that's about an exorcism, or you could take it as a more kind of psychological thriller about two priests who kidnap a teenage girl who's mentally ill and torture her. So it's incredibly well balanced. So unlike something like The Exorcist, which falls, firmly on the something supernatural is happening side of things, this one you never really know whether the events that you're witnessing are just like unconscious things that are happening in the minds, or because of the mental state of the characters, or if something supernatural is really going on. So it's very gripping, very tense. It's, as I say, wonderfully balanced, and also a really interesting examination of faith, and also of kind of mass hysteria, I suppose. So again, a thoroughly enjoyable book, and one that I'd recommend to anybody. Next up is another 60s horror novel. So this time it's Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. So this is a book I've been reading to read for years, and having got into BookTube recently and seeing it featured on a few channels, I thought I'd finally get around to it. So prior to this, the only Bradbury novel I've read was Fahrenheit 451, which I loved. This is a very different beast to that book. It feels enormously like a Stephen King novel, although obviously it was written before Stephen King was publishing anything. But it's got that real small town vibe. It's got a coming of age story. It's got a kind of menace that is hunting children, and the adults are oblivious to. So it really felt to me an awful lot like the blueprint for it. And in a way, I wish I'd read it before I read any Stephen King. Because its influences on his work are very, very clear. But yeah, a really great novel, gripping, scary. The villains in it are really quite chilling. So it's about a travelling carnival that comes to this small town. There are two 13-year-old boys who live in the town, who kind of get sucked into the dark glamour of the carnival, and the mysterious goings on there. But yeah, a really excellent horror novel with a quite charming, quite uplifting ending as well. Not wishing to give too much away, but whilst it's dark, kind of almost all the way through, there is a glimmer of light at the end. So a really great horror novel in my opinion. Next up, another horror novel, but a more recent one. So this time, Throat Sprockets by Tim Lucas from 1994. So I have done a separate review video for this, which I'll link to. This is a book, it's kind of a vampire book, but not really. So about a guy who gets obsessed with a film that he sees in a kind of rundown porno theatre in the city he lives in. The film is one that is about women's throats, basically. So lots of footage of women's throats, and he kind of, it feels like a film that has been made to appeal to vampires. But a film with a very mysterious background, so he can't really find anything out about it. And the book is about his growing obsession with the film, and his investigation into finding out, who made it and where it came from. So like The Case Against Satan, a really nicely balanced book in that you never really know if something supernatural is going on or not. But equally a really chilling book and a fascinating study of obsession. So again, highly recommend that one. My final book is something a little bit different. So this is a kind of true crime memoir told in the form of a graphic novel. It's My Friend Dahmer by Durf Backdurf. So this is Backdurf's reminiscences really of his time in high school when he was friends with Jeffrey Dahmer, who obviously went on to become a notorious and particularly horrible serial killer and cannibal. So a fascinating study of of youth and of the the darkness that surrounds teenagers sometimes, and how that darkness can manifest itself into something even more horrible and evil when there aren't isn't a sufficient support network around for for the teenager in question, and also some fascinating soul searching in there in terms of back to earth, looking back at the way he and his other friends treated Dahmer when he was a teenager, and how really the adults around Dahmer failed to pick up on all the warning signs. So a really excellent book, really nicely illustrated. The cartooning in it is quite simple but really, really effective. Again, I really enjoyed it and thoroughly recommend it. I think there's a film of it as well, which I haven't got around to watching yet, so that may be something I try and hunt down in the future. So I hope you enjoyed that top 5. If you've read any of the books and have opinions on them, then please do shout out in the comments. Please like and subscribe as always, and I look forward to talking to you again in a future video. Cheerio.